Sup, this is Variance. I will be counting down the top 5 regular season games from the IBM-B team in Season 4 of the After Hours Gaming League of StarCraft2. We start off today's top 5 games of the season highlights with number 5. Game number 4 versus BLACKBERRY Atomic Update versus KRIGHTON. Atomic Update opens with a Stargate and immediately builds out an Oracle. After being spotted by KRIGHTON and losing all the shields on his Oracle, Atomic decides to transition to Phoenix. KRIGHTON also decides to go Air Protoss too. What follows is a race for Protoss air superiority via Phoenix. Atomic goes for good worker raids, killing probes by the bunch. Despite choosing the wrong air upgrade, Atomic's good micro helps him maintain a good Phoenix count. KRIGHTON finally goes for a push with a superior ground army and takes out Atomic's third. But Atomic swoops in with superior Phoenix numbers, starts to lift up most of the enemy stalkers, and without any anti-air to deal with the Phoenix deal with the remaining forces. Finally, Atomic's counterattack forces a GG from KRIGHTON. Next up in our regular season highlights at number 4 is game number 2 in IBM-B team versus HUBSPOT, Great Archon versus Oxen of the Sun. Great Archon uses a Hellion Widowmine opening build to pressure the front of Oxen of the Sun's natural. Great Archon gets only a few link kills, but forces Oxen to build roaches and not drones. Behind the pressure, the blue Terran uses a superior macro to build a sizable worker lead. Well-placed Widowmines at the top of the ramp to Great Archon's third base, and a micro misstep by Oxen, allowing his Hydras to trail too far behind his roaches, helped the blue Terran to defend an attack up the ramp leading to his third. GA uses Biomine Banshee army to kill most of these roaches, then go and chase down and kill the retreating Hydras. A Raven joins the Terran army, and he uses a Seeker missile to snipe an Overseer from Oxen. With his Widowmines now safe from anything but splash damage, Great Archon steamrolls through his opponent's army and his third. The orange Zerg gets Swarmhosts, but it is too late, and he loses them and his natural. With nothing left, Oxen of the Sun has to tap out and type good game. Moving right along at the number 3 spot is game number 3 in IBM-B team versus QUALCOMM. Argent Tower faces Oh Hello There. First quiz question of the day. When is cheese not cheese? When it is an economic 8-pool. Argent Tower elects to open with quick Zergling to put pressure on his opponent, but then expands to his natural expansion behind it. Oh Hello There defends perfectly, losing 0 units. But Argent Tower's plan works because he denies his opponent mining time, distracts the QUALCOMM Zerg to the point of floating resources, and Argent's hatch finishes before his opponent even starts his. However, Oh Hello There returns the favor and applies pressure of his own via a timing attack. Then, for the next heart attack inducing 5 game minutes, it is an all-out Ling Bling war as each player takes turns hurling acidic balls of Zerg fury at one another. Our IBM hero emerges from the battle alive, barely defending the onslaught, but loses the hatch at his natural in the process. Amazingly, after all this insanity to start the game, it somehow returns to a long macro game in which both sides are fairly even. However, time and time again we are reminded that StarCraft is a game of mistakes, and it is Oh Hello There's key mistake that would ultimately cost him the game. He completely forgets his upgrades from start to finish, so his equally sized army cannot efficiently trade or compete with Argent Towers. As the QUALCOMM Zerg attacks his opponent's third with late game mutas, Argent Tower's heavily upgraded straight Roach and Fester army moves in and fungles his opponent's army and wins the straight on fight convincingly, and Argent Tower is able to collect the W for his team immediately after. We are almost at the top game from the IBM-B team in the regular season, but first I bring you number 2. Game number 2 of IBM-B versus PALANTIR, ISOCENE battles KENNYPOWERS. Walls are especially important in PvZ, as one of the Protoss players on Team IBM would attest to. Even if KENNYPOWERS from Team PALANTIR didn't know this before, he sure does now after this game. His failure to give the hold position command to the Zealot completing his wall off at the ramp allows ISOCENE Zerglings from a 10 pull to surround and kill the Zealot and the probe, thus allowing ISO's forces to run freely into the main base. With the Lings now inside the wall, they destroy pylons, kill probes, and prevent new buildings from being warped in, even with the Protoss mothership core raining havoc from above, uncontested. KENNYPOWERS is thrown off of his game, pulling probes and running them around the base, and has trouble establishing a wall off. What makes matters worse for him is when the Palantir Protoss fails to hold position, the wall completing Zealot again, allowing more Zerglings to squeeze past unnecessarily. KENNY is finally able to build a wall and stabilize, but the damage has been done. In all, a total of 14 workers are lost, and the Protoss is now far behind. With the Dark Shrine finished, the Protoss sends Dark Templars for a double-pronged attack. But it's sad to see that ISOCENE already has Spore Crawlers down, so with detection, ISO easily kills the DT at his natural base, and then the one in his main base with a pack of Zerglings. Finally, ISOCENE uses the same Lings in a counter push that forces KENNYPOWERS to reluctantly type the letter G twice on his keyboard, making the IBM Zerg victorious. We finally arrived at the top game of the first 9 weeks of AHGL StarCraft2 Season number 4. It is the ace game in the epic match between Big Blue and QUALCOMM, which pits IBM's Akira against Qualcomm's ace player, Leaf, on Heavy Rain, a Protoss mirror matchup. One of Akira's Vespian gases is blocked by an assimilator built by Leaf's scouting probe. Real quick, the final quiz question of the day. What does a Protoss do when one of his gas is stolen? Yes, that's right, he just forgates. Leaf, being from the planet Ire himself, also knows this. In fact, Leaf spots the proxy pylon planting probe Akira sends inside his base and pushes it away. What does Akira do from here? Why, he sends in the same probe to put down a proxy pylon at the same location again, of course. Leaf is vigilant and continues to scour the area in his base for a possible proxy pylon. He thinks, okay, no probe, good. But then Leaf looks away from his base and the minimap because he gets an alert that his probe is under attack. It is in the same few seconds Akira's ninja probe slips by Leaf's notice and then proceeds to hide in the same place Leaf had just checked seconds earlier. Then some more bad luck for Leaf. His mothership core scouts to the left after popping out, but narrowly misses spotting the probe, but literally 1 or 2 hex spaces. The assist goes to Blizzard and their recent nerf of the mothership core's vision. Leaf finally spots the proxy location, but it is too late. Akira already has 3 completed in-base pylons ready to be used to execute his forgate. Leaf's mothership core has energy, so casts a photon overcharge on the Nexus before dying and buys Leaf some time. But after that wears off, Leaf only has probes, an immortal, a sentry, and his own stalkers and zealots with which to defend. Now, let's listen to me and Argent Tower as we cast this part of the game the day it was played.
Photon overcharge is done. One more warp in. Here we go. This is it. One immortal, second one is nowhere near done. Focus down that mothership core so we can't get any more.
Oh my god. Alright. Oh, here comes the probes!
Probes are being
surround.
But the zealots are getting a surround on the immortal.
Oh my god,
The immortal is back. The immortal is trapped by its own units trying to micro back.
Comes a warp in.
I think Dave has got it. The immortal has fallen.
Oh my god.
Most probes have fallen. There's 23 probes to 9. Dave has done the oldest build in the history of builds.
Leaf's defeat at the hands of one of the oldest builds gives the IBM team captain the win in the game and gives the IBM-B team the victory in the exciting 5-game series. That wraps up our top 5 regular season games by the IBM-B team in Season 4 of the AHGL of StarCraft2. Again, this is Variance. Hope to see you all soon on the Battle.net ladder.